Welcome to another Sprague Spotlight interview. Today joining me is Larry Treleven, Vice President of Sprague Pest Solutions. Larry, welcome to Sprague Spotlight interview.
Oh, well, thanks, Jeff. Uh, must have been a slow day at the newsroom.
Yes, we're looking to fill in the last 30 seconds of our newscast today, and we figured we would give you a shot at it. So, no, we're happy you could join us today, and we know you're coming up to a pretty significant milestone come April 1st, which is 50 years with Sprague. And first off, congratulations on that achievement. And second off, you know, you've got obviously you've seen quite a bit. I wouldn't say you've seen it all because we should never say that, but you've seen quite a bit. You know, what based on your 50 years with Sprague and within the pest control industry, what do you see coming around the bend that's going to impact the way people at Sprague do their jobs and the way the industry does their jobs?
Well, the way the people at Sprague do their jobs is, to make sure that we adhere to our core values and always doing the right thing every time. Because, Jeff, each one of us is in sales. Every one of us is. Um, if you're not directly in sales, in a sales position with Sprague, guess what? Every time you're in the field solving problems, meeting with our clients and everything, you're reselling the business and the value that Sprague brings to the table. So I just am excited to see uh, so much of the future looks so bright for Sprague and our opportunities to expand throughout the West uh, makes me very happy to see the way things are going right now.
You mentioned always doing the right thing by your client, by your community, and that sounds like a very it should be an easy thing to do. Why is that hard for business today to sometimes wrap their arms around that? Sprague has been able to do it successfully for generations. Why is that hard in business today to do that sometimes?
Don't want to take the shortcuts, don't want to take the easy way out. And sometimes it's easier to do the shortcuts, uh, to cut the service quality, to cut back on the amount of product or material you use out there um, doing our work. Instead of doing that, we'd rather spend the time and do things right. That's why, for since the inception of the company, we never paid people on production at Sprague. We always paid them on the number of hours that they worked. Because if we got a call from one of our clients, Jeff, who said there's still a problem with rodents or flies or roaches or whatever it happens to be, and you come back out, um, we want them, our people, to be as excited to help them on the return calls as they are on the initial calls.
Right,
Not, the quality starts to slip, and that would just fly in the face of everything that we stand for.
right.
Make sure that we do the right thing every time, all the time. And that's what's, you know what? Um, Planting seeds is what we do all of the time. And that's where we come back and harvest something significant later.
Where did that come from? I mean, the commitment to always exceed client expectations, and to, like you said, to deliver a service that is innovative, uncompromising. Where did those seeds initially get planted? I mean, you've got a good perspective. 50 years, with Sprague. Where did those seeds get planted initially?
They initially got planted for myself and Alfie from our parents, Jeff, you know, and, you know, you know, the deep religious belief that doing the right thing And the golden rule was not the best option, it was the only option. So it was ingrained in our DNA that way. Um, we grew up, I suppose it's no secret to anybody, we went through the parochial school system. So it was reinforced in grade school and high school, and different stories when I got to the University of Washington. But in any event, that's another story. But that was the roots of it, is where we were raised. Our parents were deeply committed to doing the right thing all the time. And also, I can remember as a kid getting on my bicycle and my mother saying, "Now make sure you kids are always doing the right thing, because so many people, your father out here. We will find out about it." And they were right.
You had nowhere to hide sometimes.
Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
I mean, how, and granted, the background, and like I said, it's been in your DNA, from family. How do you translate that? How have you translated that to employees as the company has grown? I mean, you've grown, rapidly, and you're in, multiple states in the Western U.S. How do you keep that family teachings and family values and kind of push that across a company to get hundreds of people to listen and to buy in?
Well, Jeff, we don't try to force anybody. It's not something that is part of our curriculum. It's the way we live, the way we run the company. So hopefully it will be by example rather than by command. Okay. Don't do as I say, do as I do. And um, and we demonstrate it to keep that family feel throughout the company. Do you know that every single person at Sprague gets a handwritten birthday card from me
Okay.
every year? And every person at Sprague gets a handwritten anniversary card for their Sprague anniversary card, um, thanking them for their service. And we try to make sure that we continue that foray and make it different. And it's encouraging to me, Jeff, as I visit our different service centers throughout the West, how many people it's touched, because I see those cards on the windowsill or on their desks or in their cubicle or something that they've saved over the years. So it's more than just a passing interest. It's something that we try to live, breathe, and make sure it happens throughout the organization. Is that what you mean?
Yep. Yep. I mean, you talked about the importance of family. Obviously, you and Alfie, and your brothers and sisters, and particularly you and Alfie grew up in the business. Now you've got the fourth generation with Ross and Paul and AJ, taking much more significant roles. What's that going to bring to the table for the company, and really for the industry? Where do you see their impact being made?
Well, I see their impact on a daily basis, and to me, it seemed very positive because uh, of what they bring to the table. Both Alfie's son AJ and our son Ross graduated from Gonzaga University, and then AJ went and sold insurance for a couple of years before he came back and started doing sales for us. So he saw what it was like to work outside of the company for a number of years, and he improved his skill set and then brought the things that he learned outside to Sprague and made it even better in sales. And then we moved him to through the operation into running one of the branches. For 2.5 years, he ran the Salt Lake branch. And when he was there, he built trust with other people. He learned the business in a different region, demonstrated to others that it isn't just the name, but it's what you do with it. And then we transferred him back to run the Seattle branch because he was accepted into the Albers School of Business at Seattle University to get his executive MBA. And he completed that. Similar story with Ross. Ross worked in our Spokane office. He worked in our Seattle office in sales, and he also worked in operations. And then we transferred him to run the Denver branch for 3.5 years. When he was in Denver, got his executive MBA. Sprague paid for all this as part of the transition and the planning for the future. And then last year when Paul joined us, oh my gosh, Paul after college worked and handled major accounts for AT&T for 4 years, handled major accounts for Microsoft for 4 years, brought some of those skill sets to us and is helping to run our commercial sales department. Aren't we lucky to have buy-in from the fourth generation, not just because of their name, but they've demonstrated to us their abilities on so many levels to run this operation. How can we not be encouraged about the future? Future is bright.
And I've interviewed, both AJ and Paul, and have spoken with Ross as well. And in each one of them, it's funny. They said they weren't sure they were going to go into the family business. What did you think? Did you see them coming into the business at some point? When they were growing up, and they've all done some things outside of Sprague before they joined the company. Did you see them coming back into the business and rising to where they're at today?
Well, we hoped that they would, Jeff. And both Alfie's family with 3 children and our family with 3 children would oftentimes take vacations together and have fun as a group. And it doesn't matter if we were at a golfing resort or if we were at a ski resort, or boating or whatever it was, we would have fun as a family. But then at night, we talk about, if you were to join the company, what would you do? How would you contribute? Where would you start? All those types of things, and tried to build an idea of that maybe this is something of value. Now, not everybody has to do that. And some did, some didn't. Our oldest daughter, Angela, after Bellarmine Prep, the same Jesuit school that our parents went to and our families, she went to Santa Clara University, and she got a degree in accounting, was hired and worked 13 years with Ernst & Young. And she's the vice president of another publicly traded company. But she has some great skill sets that are important to us, and she serves on the Sprague board. So she doesn't work in the company, but she works on the company, giving us great advice and guidance and counsel in so many directions, in so many areas, that the direction for Sprague in the future is really, really bright.
Yeah, I mean, both AJ and Paul and Ross have talked about, those conversations over dinner, when they were younger, and how that kind of gave them a little preview of what was possible should they want to pursue it. And all of them have come back, obviously, and I think it's obviously a huge benefit to Sprague, and it does create a very bright future, for the company. Looking back, could you ever have imagined when you came on board that you'd spend 50 years at Sprague and 50 years in the industry?
I didn't know for sure. I knew that I enjoyed working for our dad, because he was a very dynamic person. He was somebody that, first of all, Jeff, he was our father, He ended up being our business partner, and he also became one of our best friends. So I think that's a sign of real success if you're able to have that kind of relationship in the family and to foster that type of activities that promote those types of values. And weren't we lucky? Weren't we the lucky ones
Right.
that had the great example from both our dad and our mother? Yeah.
Right. They were both actively involved in the business, and I talked to Alfie about this some, and he just described your dad as just a man who was always moving, always thinking, always just trying to better himself and better those around him. And I think that's reflective of the company that has grown today. In that, and also another thing, and I know you're a big advocate of this, and Alfie said and talked about this with your dad, the training and education piece of Sprague and how important that was from the early days to offer training. How is that ongoing commitment going to, you know, help Sprague and at the end help their customers and help the communities at large? That commitment to training.
Well, Jeff, our dad was a big proponent of continuous training, and that's why as the company grew, one of the first things we did was build a small training room so that we could have people like Norm Eman or different suppliers come through and give us a previews of coming attractions. What's hot and what's not? What's coming down the line? How could we best utilize this technology for the benefit of our clients? And if our clients benefited from this, indirectly, eventually, we were going to as well. And so that mindset was there right from the beginning. Heck, when we were children, this guy from California would come and stay at our home, and instead of spending money at a hotel, he would use those dollars to buy gifts for our kids. So I thought Norm Eman was um, with at that time it was Van Waters and Rogers was brilliant because how was our dad supposed to say no when he was greasing the kids?
Norm was a very smart marketer.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So, and you know what? That idea of the birthday cards and everything came from Norm. You
Yeah.
know,
I
it,
remember getting cards from Norm for my birthday, and it was impressive. The amount he sent out. He must have had boxes full of birthday cards to send out.
it did. So that's what I do when I'm in airports waiting for flights or in stores and things. I go and try to find a card that would fit a particular personality on the Sprague team and get it off to them.
Right. Well, I asked Alfie this question. You know, what would you have done had you not gone into the pest control industry? I mean, Alfie said he would have ended up. He almost had a job with the Seattle Supersonics in their marketing department. He was going to look at that. What would you be doing, Larry, if pest control didn't become your lifelong work?
Well, I got a degree in English literature and started doing some student training when I was going to the University of Washington, some student teaching, I mean. And when I saw the way that the kids were responding, I just thought, maybe, maybe I should go to work with Dad because we always were solving problems and we got almost immediate gratification. And so that's what started to turn my direction. So my junior and senior year at the University of Washington, I focused more things on, took a bunch more business classes, accounting classes, and preventive health classes that were related to sanitation and that type of thing, Jeff. So I made a switch in college. Before that, I was in the seminary. I was actually considering becoming a Catholic priest, and then decided to go a different route.
And obviously, you came on board, and you've really never looked back, and you've certainly, enjoyed and prospered, in Sprague, and Sprague has done that, has benefited from that as well. You know, kind of looking back, what are some things that stand out in your mind? I think always ask business leaders, you've had challenges in your career,
Yes.
and how have you overcame them? Is there any one particular circumstance that was really a challenge that kind of tested you to find a solution, and you found that solution and it turned out, for the better? Is there anything that comes to mind that, jumps out?
As we grew and expanded, um, we didn't always know the best way how to do something. We invented the the how along the way with us. So um, sometimes as we expanded, we would drive by potential accounts and consider them to be anyway business. We're driving by there anyway. Why don't we service them? And that was kind of how we filled in the routes and did some of the sales calls and that type of thing. And it just continued to mushroom. But you know what? Our success in the sales arena was due in mostly to the great reputation that the company had built, the trust they had built. And as we serviced clients, and some of the personnel in those in our clients would move to another job, and when they did, they'd say, "Oh, we got to have Sprague over." So the trust that we built in the background is what helped us to catapult us on into the future.
I mean, Sprague has always been known for being right on, the cutting edge when it comes to innovation, and a lot of that, has to do with the people that, as you said, built that reputation. Where did the innovation piece come into it? Why has that become such, you know a part of the DNA? I mean, a lot of pest control companies know they do a good job for their customers, but Sprague seems to push that envelope and be at the very cutting edge. Where did that come from? Was that, again, from your parents? Did that come from kind of a group think type of thing? Where'd that come from?
Well, I think it came um, really from our dad, our father, because he was always willing to learn the new things. It was the emphasis on being on the cutting edge technology. And in 1983, when we hired Jeff Weir to be our technical director, um, and he brought a bunch of ideas. And Jeff was even amazed that here our dad was in his late 60s, and he was still willing to try new approaches, new techniques. And so the example was from the top all the way through. And so that is why we've built a strong technical department. And today, we have three great uh, technical people that are um, everything from a PhD to a couple people with master's degrees that are helping to lead the charge to make sure that we're always on the cutting edge today. You know, it's not just with on the science part of it, but also on the technology. Jeff, think about this. Back in the 50s, when our dad got a license from the Federal Communications Commission to put radios in the trucks,
That's
we were one of
right.
the first pest control companies in the country to have two-way radios. Where did that idea came from? Our dad. He was a
Right.
pilot during the war. He saw
Right.
the
Coast Guard, right? I believe Coast Guard.
yeah, he was a Coast Guard pilot. So he saw the advantages of having communication and how fast you could respond to needs. And after he got his license from the FCC to put those radios in, Then he wined and dined our mother at the Fairmont Hotel in Seattle for a weekend, and after too many glasses of wine, she agreed to be the dispatcher. And so that's how they worked so closely together. But think about that. We take it for granted that you have a cell phone in your hand. Um, that was not the case in the 50s and 60s. That helped us to respond to our clients better, help build a solid base for our company, and our reputation began to reap some of those benefits from great service.
I mean, looking back, and obviously there's too many to go through, but from a technology perspective, what has had the greatest impact on the pest control industry, during your years at Sprague? Is there one thing that has really driven the industry and Sprague to the next level when it comes to technology?
Well, when it comes to technology, my brother would tell you that when I started working with the company, I used stone tablets and chisels for invoice. And I got all the energy from the pterodactyl eggs that I ate. So that's one perspective. So we've come a long ways since that time, Jeff. But the technology with computers, with handheld, with having, you know, traps for our rodents that have cameras on them and everything, who would have ever considered that to be part of our routine? But it happens every day to all of our technicians, and we're able to take advantage of those technologies and be on the cutting edge to give real data information to our clients. And some of them need that to survive and to
Right,
prosper themselves.
right, right. You mentioned technicians, and you have been around and worked with, probably hundreds in your career. And I know you've always taken a sincere interest in their advancement and their, overall development as an individual. If you were going to give a piece of advice to a technician that is starting out and wants to advance his or her career, what would that advice look like?
The advice would be to always be a problem solver with a smile on your face, because when you're smiling, you send a different message subconsciously to our clients. And everybody likes to feel good when they're doing it. If you can take pride in your work, it makes you feel good. You're a problem solver. You don't have a cape, but you are a superhero
Right.
when you take care of huge infestations for them. And that's got to be reassuring. Um, and also, I've had the advantage of walking in the shoes of a technician, because I was when I started.
Right.
Was also in sales, was also a branch manager, and different things. The thing that I really did not do well at was dispatching and answering phones and things like that. That one, I would not have got a very good grade on that. But the other one, I think I always was able to contribute and make things better.
So, I mean, yeah, your experience is very relatable, to, a route manager today, branch manager. And I think that obviously brings a tremendous amount of value and credibility, to what you have to say. I know you really enjoy working with individuals one on one. To see that is that maybe one of the more rewarding parts of your 50 years at Sprague, is seeing others grow and advance?
It is. And to see them being promoted, and as the company grows, look at all the other upward mobility positions that are created by them. Somebody that was a technician, and then there's an opportunity if they go through our training programs, become maybe an operations manager, like second in charge at the branch. And as we open more branches, maybe you might have to relocate, but got an upward mobility to be a branch manager. I mean, look at how many people just in the last year have benefited from the growth at Sprague. We are delighted to be able to every year continue to grow the company and also be profitable.
Why is organic growth so important to Sprague?
Because organic growth is the result of doing your job right every time. Because the organic growth is what helps get more sales, get more satisfied clients, that type of thing. It's also important, if you can do some acquisitions at the same time. But then that brings another set of skill sets that you need to bring to the table to make sure that that works well in addition. And to make sure that we grow and sustain our growth, that we don't just do all kinds of acquisitions and grow by numbers, we grow by quality. Our quality assurance people are validating that we are delivering what we say we're going to do. And for a number of years, Jeff, when we started down this role, I was out in the field as a quality assurance person as well, to make sure that we were delivering the top service that we were capable of doing, and found that I was received very well doing that role. And as our clients grew, we grew with them. How cool is that?
Right. There's a real deep partnership that you've established with many clients. Being out in the field, Larry, in that QA role, which is a critical role, it really stresses the importance of the work that Sprague's technicians do on a day in, day out basis. And obviously, you're supported by a team in the branches, in the technical department. How do you get that message out to the technicians and the QA folks about the importance of the job they're doing? They may not see it because, like I said, they're working, in their jobs. How do you get that message across that, you are protectors of health, protectors of food, protectors of structures, protectors of, of people? How do you get that message out?
Well, we do it first by making sure that they have great training to begin with. But then as they're out in the field and there are visitations from our quality assurance team to their accounts, we like to emphasize that we're not trying to catch them doing something wrong. We're trying to catch them doing something right and to brag about them, to make sure that our quality assurance scores are high in each one of our branches. And some of our bonus structures are set up so that they benefit when that does occur. I mean, last night we just had our annual banquet, and usually every year it's usually in person, but this year, because of the pandemic, we had it on YouTube. I don't know if you saw it, Jeff.
I've not seen it all yet, no.
But in any event, we were able to highlight some successes on why our people have done such a great job during the year, and also why they benefited the whole company by their accomplishments. And it was a lot of fun.
Talking about, developing leaders, and you mentioned the leadership development program that Sprague is committed to. If you're talking with a new hire or someone who's only been with the company a year or two, what would you say if they ask you, Larry, how do I get ahead? How do I make my mark in this company? And, you know, where do you direct them, and how do you stress the importance of those leadership programs and the training?
Well, first of all, when they do join us, part of our onboarding process is I spend a couple hours with them talking about the history of the company, where it was in the beginning. Um, how during the Depression years, our grandfather rented out of his home. Their two-car garage was our first warehouse. When our dad took it over, he built our first warehouse in 1948, how we grew it and continued to grow. And as a result of our growth, there's so many more opportunities out there by delivering top-notch quality service every time. Um, it builds a good foundation and a good trust with our clients. But anyway, that's where the upward mobility begins, Jeff, is by continuously, month after month, year after year, providing great service. It gets noticed. Who does it get noticed by? It's noticed by our branch managers, our operation managers. And they're the ones that um, maybe let Layla Haas or Jeff Miller know that maybe this person has the potential for a leadership role. And maybe we should talk with them about the potential of joining those leadership classes.
Where does Sprague and the industry as a whole, need to head to continue its growth, and also kind of expand upon the important work it does?
The environment is so important um, to a lot of people in this country. So making uh, the work that we do as safe as possible, and prescription is, when I started, a lot of the products and materials that we used were made by chemical companies. Now, guess what? Now a lot of them are made by pharmaceutical companies. You see where the focus is? Into cracks and crevices. We're not out there with power sprayers and stretching out hoses and dousing acres of land. We're using prescription treatments in cracks, in crevices, and places where the insects live, breathe, and play and breed. And that's where we make a difference, is that the products and materials we use are going to be safer for our people, for our clients, and for their customers in return. So I think it's a huge cycle that is so important to all of us, is to be careful about the environment in which we are working.
Right. We'll switch gears a little bit here. You've had a long partnership with your brother Alfie.
Yes.
Talk about that a little, and what that's meant to you, and really, how have you two, combined to really build a fantastic organization that's got a bright future.
Okay, well, Alfie joined us about 10 years after I did. And but he had a different skill set that I didn't. He was really good with numbers and processes and systems. I was better at sales and maybe some of the operations in the beginning. And between the two of us, we had the advantage of a great 1-2 punch working together, and giving each other the space to operate in our own way, bringing our own skill sets to the company and helping it to grow. And so we're very proud of that and happy that we were able to uh, build such a significant company in really a short period of time, Jeff.
Right, right. What would your parents think if they dropped in today and looked at what you and Alfie have moved ahead and seeing a fourth generation come in? What would their thoughts be?
Well, our dad was amazed at how much it grew, and he was pretty proud as we grew, that we were able to purchase a lot of the buildings that we operate out of. For him, when we were starting the company to grow it and everything, he would oftentimes say, "Hey, let's if we're going to have an office, the only difference between um, a rent payment and a mortgage payment is a down payment. So let's get the down, and then everything else falls into perspective." So that's why we were uh, able to be in different business ventures together to help build not only the pest control, but the real estate and also the vehicle leasing end of the operation. So it makes a significant difference, Jeff, in the long run. In the long run, as we talked earlier, you reap what you sow. So plan accordingly.
Alfie said your mom would provide the lunches for the early company meetings and that soup was always on the menu. Is
Yes,
that correct?
absolutely correct.
And
So
what was your favorite soup?
I would say maybe her split pea soup, her clam chowder, and vegetable beef or her turkey soups were the four, I guess, that were my favorites. And the reason is because with a large family, if we had ham for dinner, guess what? The leftover ham or the leftover turkey or the leftover whatever it happened to be, Jeff, would be
Mm-hmm.
on the stove the next morning in these huge pots that she had. And when we were growing up, it didn't matter if we invited a bunch of our friends for lunch because there was always plenty and it smelled so good. Um,
What would she think of where Sprague the company is, and how it's grown?
well, she would be blown away because she was the first voice that answered the phones and dispatched the calls out and the call letters from our, remember the radios we were talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
KON 518 were our call letters. Base to truck one was our dad, or whatever had happened. The truck two might have been me. Three was Art, on and on down the line. So those were important to her. But as the company grew, she saw that it would be too much for herself. And so that's why we started hiring staff to help out in the office, Jeff, because it just got to be way beyond what she ever dreamed it would be.
We'll wrap up on this question, and it's a big question. Looking back over 50 years with Sprague, is there a memory or a couple of memories that stand out to you that have kind of left a mark on you?
Well, I think it's being able to work with and for Alfie all these years, and for us to divide up our responsibilities in running the company. For many years, Alfie was on the board of directors for Copasan. He was the chairman of their board, I think, for 13 years. And when he focused on the advantages of growing our copacetic operation when we had that, and me focusing on representing the Sprague at the National Pest Management Association. I went through all the chairs and was president of NPMA in '94 and '95, and to see all of that growth that's gone forward, I think is very satisfying. How we were able to divide responsibilities even today and keep moving the company forward, and realizing that we agree on about 95% of all of the decisions. Few of them, we question each other on, but in the long run, um, we don't let our egos get in the way, and we keep moving forward. And that's the mindset that we try to foster with the fourth generation as well, because now we got three of them working together, not just two. We got three of them working together.
One last question. Obviously you're not slowing down. You still have a lot of passion and energy. What do you want to accomplish in the next couple of years going forward?
Well, as I've been gradually stepping back, Jeff, a little bit more each year, and want to continue to work, but not get in the way of Ross, AJ, and Paul. And doing that gradually. One of them is, when I'm on the PPMA board as well, with our National Trade Association. And I'm in the process right now of, in November, I'll be stepping back off the board and letting our son Ross take my position there. And so we've already made some preliminary discussions with Cindy Manis, who runs that, and also with Dominique at NPMA, so they know what is in the works as well. But, gradually stepping back and letting them shine. Ross is 39, I'm 72. Where do you think the future is going to be? Not with me, future is going to be with them. So let's let them continue to bring the great leadership skills that they have to make it even better as it moves forward.
Is there anything you haven't accomplished in your career that you want to check that box?
Yeah, I failed retirement pretty poorly. A lot of my contemporaries are saying, hey, Larry, when are you going to retire? When are you going to play some more golf? You're not spending more time skiing, or you know what, Jeff, I love the people at Sprague and all of the things that they do to make it a success. And I get excited about that. So if I cut back my hours and do spend some more time golfing or skiing, then maybe I will do that. But I'm still going to keep my oar in the water with the company, as long as I'm not in their way, as long as I'm not impeding their progress. I would never want to do that. That's what my intentions are.
Well, Sprague is certainly benefiting from you failing your retirement 101 course, and the industry is better for it as well. So, Larry, thank you for spending some time today, and it's always a pleasure. And we'll be back with another episode of Sprague Spotlight very soon.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Larry.